The purpose of this assignment is to give you the opportunity to work together in team. It's a team assignment. It is not an individual assignment. It's a team or a group assignment. As you think about this particular assignment, what you're going to do is that you are going to edit a PowerPoint and make it an effective PowerPoint. So when you look on Blackboard, you should see that there says group 1, group 2, group 3, group 4, and each group is assigned a PowerPoint. Whatever group you belong to, that's the PowerPoint you are working with. You'll deliver the presentation after you fix the PowerPoint on the assigned date. And remember, it's a group assignment. So just like as the image shows you there, the people linked together, your grade will be dependent on everyone else in the group because it's not an individual assignment, it's a group assignment. As far as your team, right? What's a team? A team is basically a group of people with different talents, abilities, and backgrounds, and they're working together in order to come up with a common goal. So in this case, the common goal is to put together an effective PowerPoint and to present it to the class. As the PowerPoint is concerned, what are you doing with the PowerPoint? Well, you're editing the PowerPoint that's there, and you're going to make it more effectively. I told you to look at the videos that deal with presentation aid, especially the video that says Death by PowerPoint, to make sure that you understand how to use PowerPoint effectively and how to put it together effectively based on the psychological aspect of someone viewing a PowerPoint. You can put videos as you want in the PowerPoint. The maximum length of your video should be 3 minutes. So any video you put up should be no more than 3 minutes in length. You can put up as many as you need. You can put up a bunch, maybe 5, 30 seconds excerpts. It's all up to you. But the video should relate to what it is that you're talking about. And you should explain the video to us before you show it. And then you summarize what we just saw on the video if you're showing us a video in any of your segments of the PowerPoint. You also need to add pictures and images, and the pictures and images must pertain to the topic that you're talking about. So if you're dealing with relationships and you maybe have an aspect of comforting someone that is grieving, maybe you'll put up a picture of what someone who's comforting someone looks like and explain to it why that is a efficient or effective way of comforting someone if you put in an image. If you use phrases, there should be short phrases, not sentences. Remember, the PowerPoint is not your speech. You are not putting definitions on the PowerPoint. You're not putting in your examples on the PowerPoint. That is what you will say to the audience. That is what you will have in your notes, and you will tell the audience the definitions for different terms and also any examples that you're presenting. You are going to have that in your notes and not put it on the PowerPoint. The PowerPoint is just a guide to assist you in delivering the presentation. So you can have short phrases for the information that's there. If you choose, you could have interactive games. I've seen groups in the past where they might do maybe a little Jeopardy segment, or they might have questions for the class. So if the members of the group does have any games or class or questions that they put into their PowerPoint where they're interacting with the class, you as a class member, it is your responsibility to respond to them and answer their questions. And also you need to have animation in your PowerPoint to keep the audience focused on what it is that you want to talk to them about. You saw in Death by PowerPoint where they talked about using transitions. You need to make sure you have your transitions built into the PowerPoint and also the animation in the PowerPoint. Do not remove any topics. So basically, you are not allowed to remove any segments as far as topics. So if there's a topic that's talking about, I don't know, if it's interview and it's talking about interview questions, you can't remove the topic interview questions. All the topics must be presented. Obviously, you're editing the PowerPoint, so you're taking things out, but you're not taking topics out of the PowerPoint. Do not add a lot of writing on the PowerPoint. Again, we saw that. You need to make sure that it's consistent and that the audience is not focused on the writing, but focus on you as delivering the speech. Less is best. So you want to make sure as far as your PowerPoint is concerned, it's clear and easy for your audience to understand. You view the lecture that I presented on Presentation Aid. Review chapter 6 in the segment that deals with visual aid. So that helps you along with dealing with PowerPoints and putting together effective presentation aids. And of course, the video Death by PowerPoint is very effective in teaching you the psychological aspect of PowerPoint. So if you have not looked at it, please make sure you look at it on your own. So this way you are there to be of help to the members of your group. The assignment. So what you will do is you will go onto Blackboard and you go into the link that says your group assignment. You will click on your group assignment. And what you'll do is that you will download the PowerPoint that your group is working on, right? So if it's group 1 you're in, I don't know what the topics are, but let's say if your topic is self-esteem or perception, then you download the PowerPoint that deals with perception. There's another one that deals with relationships. There's another one that deals with interviewing. And I think the last one deals with interpersonal relationships. So again, you will download whatever chapter or PowerPoint that you're dealing with. And this way you have the PowerPoint there to work on. It was best to divide the PowerPoint up among the members of the group. So not one person is working on everything. So divide the PowerPoint up among the members of the group. It's best probably to do it with learning objectives, because not so much of how many slides the individual is going to be working with, because some people will add more slides into their PowerPoint. Some people might have less slides into the PowerPoint. So we're not counting slides. I have presentations where people have had 99 slides for their PowerPoint presentation. We're not counting slides. We're counting how effective you are in getting the information across to the class. So it's best to divide it by the learning objectives. So now each person is working on a particular learning objective. Now, where you're going to exchange contact information, choose a theme. This is important. It's important that everyone has the same theme for the PowerPoint, because if everyone has different themes and you're working on the PowerPoint, when it's time to put it back together, and if I work on one theme and you worked on another one, when we put it back together, the fonts are not going to line up the same. The images might shift. Things might get out of whack. So now it takes you more work to gel everything together. So if you're using the same theme, that means everyone is using the same font, everyone is using the same format. So this way, when you put the PowerPoint back together after members work on their particular segment, all you're doing is cutting and pasting, cutting and pasting, cutting and pasting, and now you have one PowerPoint again. You will edit the PowerPoint again based on the lectures notes, based on chapter 6, and also based on the videos on Blackboard. The leader, and I'll tell you what the leader's responsibility is. You will pick a leader because the leader is going to be responsible for creating like some Google chat or somewhere where the group can meet outside of class, work together to put together the PowerPoint and discuss what work you have done so far. Now, remember I said to you in the beginning of the semester, when you had your syllabus, there was a textbook that I told you should not purchase it. Right. If you go on to Blackboard right now, you'll see in the announcement segment, the textbook and the link for the textbook. Instead of purchasing the textbook, you are going to purchase the e-version of the textbook. The e-version of the textbook, I believe, is like $28 or something. But then you will divide the course among the members of your group. So if there's 6 people in the group, 6 people divided by 28, and everyone, what you do is just give everyone the ability to password so they can get the information, or you could either download the chapter and send it to them, however you want to do it. So this way everyone has the information from the chapter, because once you get the book, you need to read the chapter, because in reading the chapter, you will understand how to make your PowerPoint more effective and how to put together your presentation. Study the entire chapter. So you have one chapter, whatever chapter you're dealing with, you need to study the entire chapter. Why? In case the day that your group is supposed to present, a member does not show up, you still have to present that member's slides. So whether one person presented or 2 or 3 people in the group presented, but the slides must be presented to the class. That's why everyone needs to study the entire chapter. I didn't say memorize the chapter. I just said know the chapter so you can talk about the information that's there. And of course, if you did a practice run of your presentation, then you would know what the individual who did not show up, what they will be doing for the presentation, because you saw it already. Let's talk about the roles of the members. It's amazing what you could accomplish if you don't care who gets the credit. This is a group assignment. It's not me, 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 me. I did, I did, I did. It's more we as the group, we did. Maybe you might be the person who did most of the work in the group. I don't know. But the goal is that you want the best grade possible for your group. Let's talk about the leader and the moderator. Now, the leader or the moderator can be the same person. It's up to you as a group to decide what you want to do. But I'm going to tell you the role of each person, and then you can figure out what you want to do as far as a group. The leader's goal is to make sure they combine the PowerPoint and into one single PowerPoint. So once everyone is finished working with the PowerPoint, whoever is the leader is going to put the PowerPoint back together into one single PowerPoint and submit that PowerPoint. You're going to label it final chapter, whatever your chapter is, and you're going to submit the PowerPoint to me. And the date for submission is I will look at your PowerPoint. I'll give you some tips about things maybe that you need to correct. If you don't have much to correct, then you just need to make the little adjustments and then upload it the same day in class. Or if you do need to make corrections, then we have the whole entire class period where you should be able to make the corrections. But your segment should be done. Only the leader is uploading the PowerPoint. So I'll only see 4 PowerPoints that will be uploaded. Not every member of the group is going to be uploading. During the presentation, what's going to happen? The leader, or now the moderator, it might be 2 people, it might be 1, I don't know. Your group is going to decide what you're going to do. The moderator is going to introduce the presentation. So you're going to write an introduction for the presentation, and you're also going to write a conclusion for the whole group presentation. The moderator also is going to introduce each member. So they're going to introduce each member before they speak and say a little bit of something about what that member is going to talk about. And after that member speak, the moderator also is going to do a brief summary of what they spoke about and then introduce the next speaker. And the moderator is almost like the transition from one segment into the next segment. The moderator will keep track of the time. If for some reason someone is going over time, you need to alert them because the group needs to be able to come in on time. If someone didn't fill all of the time that they were supposed to fill, then you as the moderator will need to step up and fulfill that time so that the group meets the time requirements for the presentation. The role of the presenter, number 1, you're showing up. All presenters are showing up the day they're supposed to present. If you do not show up, then what's going to happen is that you have to have a real documented valid reason, because I can't tell 5 or 6 other people to get back up and do a presentation so that you can present. So if for some reason something happened and you can't be here, I need the documentation as to why you were not here to present with your group. And then I will deal with you separate outside of the group. Your goal is to present your segment, whichever segment of the PowerPoint you work on. Your goal is to present that particular segment to the class. You need to have an opening for your segment. So you must have an introduction for your segment. 5 parts of the introduction. You know how to put together introductions. You put it together for your first presentation. You need to put together an introduction for your segment. And you also should have a conclusion for your segment, whichever segment you're doing. The presentation is going to be mandatory 50 to 60 minutes in length. Each group has 50 to 60 minutes in length. That means that if I always tell the group, your goal is to get to 50. So if your goal is to get to 50 and there's 5 people in your group, that means that you have 10 minutes each for your segment. Take into consideration that if you have 6 individuals and 1 person is the moderator, they'll probably fill in the last 10 minutes or last 5 minutes to get you to either 55 or 60 minutes in length, and shouldn't go over 60 minutes in length for the presentation. Pick a leader. The leader is there, or the moderator, depending on if they're the same individual, there might be different individuals. The moderator or leader is going to introduce and present a conclusion and will introduce each member and summarize their segment when they finish speaking. Everyone in the group must speak or play a role. Now, I've seen groups where they've put together their presentation, and one group one time, because they were dealing with relationships, They had different plays and different skits they put together. Another group pretended one time that they were doing a talk show and that the members were experts in different areas of perception and self-esteem. You figure out what you want to do for your particular presentation. But everyone in the group has to play a part because everyone in the group is going to score points for the group. And of course, dress is business casual. Use your phone or your device or in PowerPoint. At the bottom of PowerPoint, there's the presenter's notes. You could put your notes in presenter's notes, but I am not collecting any of your written work. I'm not collecting any outlines. The only thing I'm collecting is the PowerPoint, and I will see the presentation when you present it. So however you put your notes, that's up to you, but the goal is not to read, it's more to talk to the audience and look at the camera. We'll be presenting live to the class. The grade is 20% of your final grade. This is 20% of your final grade. And the grade is going to be based on the PowerPoint and the presentation. How do I usually grade the PowerPoint and the presentation? So that's why I said every member must participate because you want to score as much points as possible for your group. What do I usually do? Well, I score each member based on 100 points. I add all the points together and I will give it back to the group. So if I use this example, let's say John scored 88 points, Mary scored 90 points, Paul scored 70 points, Scott was 95. So altogether, the group could have scored 400 points, but they only scored 343 points. I will give the group leader a sheet with 343 points. The group will meet once again, and now the group is going to tell me out of the 343 points, how many points did John earn? How many points did Mary earn? How many points did Paul earn? And how many points did Scott earn? And give it back to me. And whatever the group tells me the grade should be, that's the grade that I'm putting in my grade book. Why do I do it this way? Because usually for some reason, there's always someone that's an individual person and they never work with the group. But the day the group present, they show up. In my 30-something years of teaching, they will show up and they will do a dynamite job and mess up the whole group's presentation because they never met with the group, but they did their own thing. And now they took away parts or presentations or things the group wanted to do. And now I give that person a high score and I meet 4 or 5 angry persons outside of my class, outside of my office complaining, why did I give that person that grade when they did not participate with the group? So now the group will determine the fate of the scores. You will never know what score I gave the individual. You will tell me what score they deserve based on what they did with the group in the past, in working on the PowerPoint, and in practicing with the groups. Score as much points as possible. So that means I always tell students before the group present, you should meet together and do a practice run. Talk to people and say, well, this looks good, do this way. This we talk about before how to communicate effectively. We talked about in the last presentation, you did comments with what people did well, what they needed to improve upon. Some of you didn't want to give any comments, but now you should give the comments to your members before they get into the presentation, because now your grade depends on how well they present the day they show up to present. And one of the things that I like about this presentation, and I could always tell when a group worked well together, by the time we get to the persuasive presentation, every single member of that group usually scores the 90 and above on the persuasive presentation because they've learned from 6 other members of the group how to present well, or 5 other individuals how to present well and correct different things that they're doing that might not be effective in their presentation. Let's say if your score is based on 500 points and one of the members didn't show up, the score will not be based on 500 points. The score will be based on 400 points, and I'll deal with that person separately so it will not affect the group in any way. If you don't present when you're supposed to present, you will receive a 0 because, as I said, I can't tell 5 other people to get back up and redo the assignment. You should have a valid documented reason why you didn't show up to present with your group. And you will forfeit 20% of your final grade. Some helpful tips. Coming together is the beginning. Staying together is a process. Working together is success. Work with your group. It's a group assignment. It's not an individual assignment. It is a group assignment. Some of you have more skills with certain things. Some of you might have more skills with technology. Some of you might have more skills as far as delivering. So your goal is to make sure you encourage all of the members of your group and you help and assist all of the members of the group and participate. Maximize each other's strengths and help the members with certain weaknesses so that they can be more effective when they present. Practice with your members and know how to use the equipment. Advancing the PowerPoint. Well, there's one or two ways you could do it. Each members can do it themselves, or one member could advance the PowerPoint for everyone else. If one member is advancing the PowerPoint, then they will need to know when to advance the slides or when to advance the segment. So you have to have some type of clue for them to know that. Sometimes it's just you just pausing, and then now they know to move on to the next slide. Or you might say, and next we'll look at, and now they know to move on to the next slide. But don't just keep saying next slide, next slide, next slide, if one person is advancing the screen. Practice together. So practice, 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 practice. Always practice together. Here's some samples of what other groups have done in the past with their PowerPoint. Relationship chapter 7. One of the things that's good to do is always have a cover sheet. So you have a blank slide that you started with. Now you have seen the original PowerPoint and what it looks like and see what they transform. So this is transitions of talking about the different types of relationships. One thing that needed to happen with this slide is that just not the images, but the headings to say friendship, platonic, what type of relationships are you dealing with, or acquaintances. You don't need to have the definition. That's what you're here for, to explain this image and why this is an acquaintance. This was a video, I believe. Guidelines. This is better, but when you think about the formatting, then the image can be moved up a little bit more and more centered. Same thing here. There's too much information that's on here. If you're doing its presentation and interviewing, and this one, the image, you have to make sure your image is not blurry when you put it up, so this way the audience can clearly see it. So what is an interview? And they will describe it, interview questions, basic protocols for interviews, preparation for interviews, primary question. So you're not putting a lot of writing. Your goal is to, whatever image you have should complement what you're talking about. So this way you can explain it to the audience in a sense. So leading a neutral question, interview preparation, requirements gathering interview. So conducting an interview, professional dress, interpersonal communication. Now they had, was the aspect, I don't remember the questions, but if you're using image, make sure you don't have the watermarks on it, because then someone knows that you took the image without paying for it. This is transitions that they used in order to talk about the different aspects. So there's a question, and this part segment was interactive with the class. So the class was providing the answers. They talk about relationships, and each of the slides came in with transitions to explain the different types of relationships as they went on with their particular video and how they discuss it. In this case, it's just short phrases to discuss different things. So, do they have a video in there? I don't know. Some of them had videos, some of them did not have videos on them. But I liked what they did with the Johari window. They recreated it, used transition to bring things in. So as they talked about each one of the pane, it wasn't just the whole box was up there. It provided the information to the audience where the audience is not reading ahead. This group dealt with perception. They started with a blank slide, which was great. They didn't reveal the topic. Then they used transitions to talk about each one of the area that deals with perception. And again, images were there. They had blank slides when they needed to not go into information so that they can keep focus with their audience on exactly what it is that they were speaking about. This was an interactive segment with the class, asking what each one of these things look like. Interpretation, do a little processing, maintaining self-perception. So I'm trying to see if there's a video somewhere. So positive, negative, click, 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 self-esteem, achieving your goal, self. Okay, so I guess they probably didn't have a video. All right.